The Sacramento Kings surprised everybody last year by ending the playoff drought and finally making the playoffs. And not just making the playoffs, being the 3 seed in the West. They did lose in the first round to Steph Curry and the Warriors, but they still surprised a lot of people last year, and they had a great season. And now they're running it back. Just about the same roster. Maybe 1 or 2 lost pieces, but for the most part, the team is looking just about the same as last year. Last year, I said last year so many times, their record was 48-34, 3rd in the West. This year, my projected record for them is 42-40, 8th in the West. And right off the bat, you might be thinking, oh, why do you have them so low? They were doing everything they did last year, and they had an amazing team, and they pretty much brought everybody back. The real only reason I have them so low is just because of how good the West looks. And I mean, of course, when I say 8th in the West, it's literally, I said 42-40, 8th in the West. For example, the 16th in the West, the Lakers, my projected record for them is like barely higher. I just spoiled my... It doesn't matter. My projected record for them is like 3 games higher. It's barely anything. It's barely a difference. The 5th team in the West, only 4 games higher. The 4th team, I don't know what the 4th team is. But my point is, when I have these standings, especially for the Western Conference, the differences between each spot aren't that big. Because this is a very competitive Western Conference, man. So I can see any of these teams coming out on top. Literally, any of these top 8 teams could be a top 2 seed. But I have the Kings here because it's just the competition in the West. I don't know if they can replicate what they did last year. Of course, their core is amazing. De'Aaron Fox is still probably going to be an all-star caliber player. And Domantas Sabonis, the same thing for him. Maybe even another All-NBA appearance, we'll see. But those two, you always know that they're going to be good. De'Aaron Fox, fun fact, is actually one of my favorite players in the league right now. And he's been one of my favorite players in the league ever since he got drafted. So, I love De'Aaron Fox. And Sabonis is cool too. And so you know those two are going to be good at the very least. Then you have the rest. Of course, they brought back Kevin Huerter. They brought back Harrison Barnes. They brought back Malik Monk. All those guys. Or, well, they didn't really lose any of those guys from free agency. But you get my point. They have all of them back. Trey Lyles, they brought back. There are a few sneaky signings on this team that I actually really, really like. First of all, with Jalen Noel's not really an official signing because he isn't officially on the team yet, technically, because they signed him for the training camp on I think it's called an Exhibit 10 or something like that type of contract. So I wrote down his name here because I didn't have anybody else write it down. But I don't know if he's going to be on the roster yet. I mean, if he is on the roster, he's going to be really good or at least he's going to be a nice little addition to the team because he can be a solid quality role player. It's just, I don't know if he's going to be on the team. I mean, we'll see, but if he's here, that's a W. And the same thing for Chris Duarte. He's a guy who, as a rookie, he did great. And then after that, in his second year, he kind of got shadowed. He was in the shadow of guys like Ben Mathurin, Buddy Hield, Tyrese Halliburton, and the other guys on that team, the other wings. And then he got pretty much left in free agency by the Pacers, and the Kings picked him up. And this is actually a really good signing in my opinion because Chris Duarte was a guy who I liked coming out of the draft, and in his rookie year, he was a nice guy from, well, he's Canadian, so I guess that adds something to it, but he was just a nice player that I liked. And the Pacers let him go, and the Kings picked him up, and this is a steal because they didn't have to trade for him, they didn't have to give up anything. Pretty cheap player too. They just got him in free agency, and you know what I'm saying? It's a nice little signing for them. So that's definitely, I think their offseason was really good. They also got 2 rookies, Kobe Jones and Sasha Vezenkov. I've heard a lot about Sasha recently, especially because of his shooting and how he has one of the best shots in the whole league. some Kings players were saying he's the best shooter that they've ever played with or against. And I'm like, whoa, that's some pretty high praise. I mean, we'll have to see what happens when he starts playing. So far in preseason, from what I've seen, he's pretty good. But, I mean, we can't say anything too crazy because we haven't seen him play an actual NBA regular season game. So we'll see what happens with him. But at least according to reports that I've heard, he looks like a pretty decent player. And then you have Kobe Jones, who is a rookie who I actually did kind of like coming out of the draft class, or coming out of the draft. And I can't remember if I had him in my, I don't think I had him in my mock draft. I mean, I could check though. I did not have him in my mock draft. I did write a few extra names though at the bottom, and I had him going around the 20th spot. And he's like a solid, let me actually pull up my scouting report for him, because why not? He's one of the rookies who I actually looked into personally. He's actually the last rookie I looked into personally, because I looked into like 20 of these players to see which guys would go in what spot and stuff like that. And he was the 20th guy I looked at. 6'5" guard out of Xavier, 199 pounds, 21 years old. My comparisons for him were Shea or Malcolm Brogdon. He's a good shot creator and can get to the basket pretty well. Plays at his own pace, good at changing speeds. Pretty good finisher. He can finish with contact. He's a good shooter. Can play make pretty well. A very good passer. Good help defender. Pretty good at getting blocks and pretty good on-ball defender. And the only unknown was that he's not a great free throw shooter. But other than that, he's a pretty good player to add to a team just to kind of play his role and do his thing. Because he can play make a bit, he can play some good defense. I don't know why I said defense. He can score a bit, he can do the stuff that you really need him to do. And that's a good guy for this Kings team to have. Because some days, maybe if somebody gets injured, they might want somebody to come off the bench and handle the ball a bit. And that's what Kobe Jones can come in and do. So I actually really like this guy for the Kings. He's one of the rookies who I really liked in that draft class. He's also one of the few rookies that I actually looked into. But yeah, he's one of the rookies that I actually liked. So, concerning the rest of this Kings team, their depth is honestly pretty good. I didn't even mention, JaVale McGee was the signing that they had this free agency. And he's actually a really good signing too, because he's another guy who you could just put on a really good team and he can contribute, play his role, and do his thing. So there's a lot of good signings that the Kings actually made this offseason. They lost Rashawn Holmes, but that was in a trade. They lost Terrence Davis, Rashawn Holmes, Chimezie Metu, and that's about it. But honestly, when I look at the guys who they lost and the guys who they added, they made up for what they lost pretty well. Because they gave a contract extension to Harrison Barnes. They did re-sign Alex Len, Trey Lyles, and a contract renegotiation with Tobias Mouse. And then also drafted Kobe Jones, signed Chris Duarte, signed JaVale McGee, signed Jalen Noel, and got Jalen Slauson. I add him to my depth chart, but he's here. And Sasha Vezenkov, who was actually a pick in 2017, who I did not know that. But yeah, they actually made up for their losses pretty well in free agency and in the draft. So I actually kind of like this Kings team, and this could make me upgrade up their ranking a bit. Their ceiling, I'd say, is a solid. They could because they could surprise me. Some injuries could happen with some of the teams, and they could legit be the 3 seed again. Do I see them getting higher than the 3 seed? Probably not. But I could see them being a solid 3 seed. Their floor, though, is definitely a 10 seed, because even though they are a good team with some great guys, I'm still not completely 100% confident that they can replicate what they did last year. I mean, they have the pieces. It's just we'll have to wait and see what happens. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the young players in this team, Keegan Murray and Davion Mitchell. Those are 2 pieces I actually really like, because Davion Mitchell defensively, we know he can be like that. It's just the offense has to come. But even without the offense, you got a bunch of other guys in this team offensively who are like that, like De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Domantas Sabonis. Malik Monk, Jalen Noel, Chris Duarte, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray. Like, the list goes on. This team is amazing offensively. They scored the most points in the league in a game last year. So, you know what I'm saying? The Kings are really like that. And then, I think actually they might have put it the most regular season points for a team all time. I don't know if that's 100% correct. I'd have to fact check it, or somebody can fact check it, but I'm pretty sure that's true. But yeah, this team offensively, you know they're going to be good. And it's good to have Davion Mitchell to bring in that defense every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? He's that guy who can help clamp up, bring that defensive energy, and I really like that about him. So I think he's a good guy for this team, and hopefully he gets better and better and helps this Kings team be better and better one day. And then you have Keegan Murray. And Keegan Murray, I'm talking a little too fast. Keegan Murray he was a great three-point shooter last year. I think he made like the most threes, or he might legit made the most threes for a rookie in his rookie year. And he was amazing. If he could just play, because what the Kings been doing is they've been drafting guys who can come into the league and already produce. Davion Mitchell, he had that defense from when he came into the league. Keegan Murray had the three-point shooting from when he came in the league. Kobe Jones, he has the pieces to be a really good role player. Sasha Vezenkov, he got that shooting to be a really good role player. So they got a lot of guys who can just come in and help your team win games. And I guess that 100% makes sense because they've been losing for so long. I'm guessing the fans are like tired of it at this point. They're like, can we finally win some games? And the Kings have been doing that recently, man. So if the Kings actually, looking at this, if I'm just off the top of my head, if I had to give them a new ranking, the win total is probably a little barely higher, and I'd probably put them in like the 7-6 seed, around there. I'm gonna make a full NBA team prediction video at the beginning of or like right before the beginning of the season, but if I had to go off the top of my head, I might legit put them in a 6 seed. Because every time I look at a team, the more I talk about them, I'm like, okay, they should be higher. But then I remember, oh, well, there's this team, and there's this team, and there's this team, and there's injuries, and there's this problem, and there's a lot of things that could happen with every single team here. And it's really unpredictable, especially in the West. So we'll see what happens. But I like this Kings team's chances, honestly. I like the way they're built, and I think this team could be pretty good. So forget I might legit stop talking about my projected records because half of these I don't even believe in anymore. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and tell me what you think down below about the Kings coming into this season. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment down below any tips, tricks, or topics like I just said 10 seconds ago. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.